we are going to start with 5 seconds exercise by which we are going to create the intention inside that we want to open your soul records, and you are going to confirm that intention by making a verbal statement by stating, "Please open my soul records." Looking at your soul records now. The soul is from this universe. The soul is from this Milky Way galaxy. It appears that the soul is evolving. It is evolving from elementary kingdom. The soul apparently have been within the earth element in the beginning. The planet which it is beginning its evolution is somewhere near Orion constellation, but it is not exactly there. It is more like a little bit to the side, but that's the closest one. So it appears there is a planet there, and it is some kind of awkward planet which has it is like a crystal based. There is only crystals there. Everything is crystal. There is like a ground, it's all crystals, mountains crystals, to the core it's all crystal. But that crystal is not the way we know crystals. The crystal is changing its structure, meaning it can liquefy itself. It is like a crystal for some time, and later on it can liquefy itself and become like a liquid. Like it turns into ocean planet, and later on it crystallizes again into those crystal mountains. So it is like that for quite a few million years. There are no intelligent life in this galaxy at that moment, and it was created million years ago, and it was like that for all those millions of years. Nothing actually was happening there. The situation is changing approximately 500,000 years ago. Some entities from Orion constellation were coming to that planet, and we want to study scientifically that planet, and we want to understand its metamorphosis, why it is changing that state from crystalline to liquid, and by changing it we want to study that process of changing, and we want to understand it more. So we take samples. We wait until the planet becomes liquid, and we take samples. We want to understand, will the samples are going to also change their state if we will gonna bring them back to the laboratory. So that was the first study that we wanted to perform. Is it something on that planet, or is it something about that material from which it's made? And the study shows that it's something within the planet, but makes that transition because the samples which we brought back were not changing their state. They are staying liquid, regardless of the fact that in the planet it is becoming crystalline again. So those samples becomes your soul. Those individualized samples becomes your individual soul, because before that it was only a part of the collective consciousness of that overall spirit of the planet. So now your rudimentary soul is laying somewhere, hanging around that laboratory within the confined space around that petri dish tube where you have been put, and basically nothing is changing for the moment till the scientists begin to experiment with the material, and they are doing also all kinds of probing and testing, adding other kind of substances, combining it, and doing all sorts of tests. And well, some of those tests, the materials we are reacting, and because of that reaction, your soul begins to evolve, and all that scientific stuff what is going on there, all those strong mental psychic energies about how we want to understand this material, all that also adds to the process, and eventually your soul begins to, well, evolve and to have its own some kind of idea about its personality, and begins to individualize even more, and kind of begins to have a purpose in life. The purpose becomes to study other materials and basically to become a scientist. So eventually your soul reincarnates into one of those scientists' bodies. They were more or less humanoid, but very somewhat similar to reptilian. Yeah, they are a little bit more reptilian than we would consider as humans should be. So, because they are like humans but with scales, reptilian scales. So you incarnate into one of those beings and you become the scientist eventually. You go through learning, studying, and you become scientist, and you work with those scientists. In the beginning, for a few lifetimes, it's okay because you are concentrated upon learning, studying, understanding. But as the lifetimes goes by, you begin to realize that it's not only about the science, and even the science itself is not as it seems from the scientist point of view, because a lot of science is misused. It is used for example, hurting other entities, then all sort of stuff which basically is, well, unscientific at least. So you decided after you are receiving this realization that you don't like this kind of misuse of your work, of your talents, of everything you do. So you decided to quit that work, and not only work but the society as the whole. There was some kind of planet where you have been living, and you decided you wanted to quit because what we were doing there was not good and you didn't like. So you wanted to, well, you actually didn't knew at the moment what you were wanting to do, but you knew that you have to do something different, and you wanted to become something like, in the beginning you decided to become something like a rebel, where you departed from the planet, joined some kind of, let's just say, free-minded individual groups. A group of free-minded individuals who were traveling with spaceships everywhere around, wherever they wanted to go, and you become like traveler for some time, traveling, discovering stuff, and you were using your scientific knowledge also for something, well, at least not as destructive as it was used before. So there you have been traveling, and all those travels, everything, you began to discover something inside of yourself. and you began to actually discover something which is called spirituality. And that led you to certain spiritual insights, and you have been contacted by some beings. First of all, some of those beings have been from star system Sirius, and those beings have assisted you in your spiritual growth, and you decided that maybe science is not all there is. There is also like let's just call it a spiritual science. And by discovering this spiritual science, you decided you want to go deeper into this metaphysical science. So after going there, you began to explore your spiritual side, and with the guidance of those Sirian entities, they were guiding you through your discovery process. Eventually you went to Cygnus constellation, and you have been living there for some time because you needed to discover the gentle side of life, because in the Orion, being reptilian, it wasn't the most gentle lifestyle. So there you went for some rebalancing process by which you have discovered the gentle side of life. There in Cygnus there are living like very gentle humanoid bird-like beings, and they are commonly referred in our culture as angels. So you have discovered that, and then those Sirian entities, they have led you to this planet, to planet Earth, and in this planet you came here something around 350,000 years ago. When you are coming to this planet, you are led here because your next lesson is to learn how to integrate the both sides, the more crude side of reptilian and more gentle side of those Cygnus bird-like entities. So you are looking for the so-called the golden middle, and for that you had to come to somewhere where both of those energies are integrated, and with that integration you are able to see both sides, and by seeing both sides you are able to discover it for yourself. Where is that golden middle? So you come to this planet, you are coming into the civilization which was called Lemuria. It was in the Pacific Ocean. You are living in that civilization. We are somewhat peaceful civilization, yet they are not afraid of war. And we are having some wars, especially with later arisen civilization of Atlantis. There is a lot of wars, and well, you are participating in those actions. Eventually the Lemuria falls, and the whole continent crumbles down. The offshoot civilization from that comes a civilization known as Tartaria, in the region as we know as Siberia. You go there and you live with that civilization for a long time. After some years, that civilization also crumbles and it is defeated by Atlantis. Atlants are very dominant race. They want to dominate everyone. So that civilization also crumbles. So you run away from there, and you are living now with something similar to 5,000 years before the year 0, and you are living in somewhere India region, and by living there you are somewhat integrating into that culture. It appears that mostly you are living in the north part of India, where there is the so-called white Hindus who are living there, and living with those people. They are the people who are also later on to decide to move from there, because some of those people, they move and they create the former Tartarians. They create what we know as Russia, and also another branch of them creates the Baltic region, and you move with them to the Baltic region apparently, but doesn't appear that it's a very straight move. It's more like you are living a little bit here, a little bit there, in all sort of different places, but there is some souls, some kind of genetic calling or something, how you would like to call it, which is calling you for this region. So you are responding to that call. There are mostly certain souls who are calling you, like saying, come here, we are waiting for you there, let's have some fun or something like that. So you respond to that call and you move, and it appears that you are moving here to the Baltic regions in approximately 1600 years after the year 0 in our times, and you are living here, and it appears that, well, you are connecting to to the other people that you have been missing. It appears that there are some like friends or something of whom you are, well, you consider them something similar to your soul family, because maybe it is like that even, might be, because it appears that some of those entities have been those refugees or rebels or whatever you like to call them, where you were traveling outside of Orion constellation, and some of them moved with you together and moved to Lemuria, later Tartaria, and later to the Baltic. So you move here, and well, basically it appears that you are living within this region more or less. Maybe sometimes you go a little bit more south, more like towards the Poland, maybe sometimes a little bit more north or east or whatever, but mostly within this region. And basically it appears that this leads you to this life. This life, apparently it is based mostly around the idea of finding the true balance. It's like this life feels like it is like a culmination of your whole journey on this planet Earth, by which you are going to find that, well, as much as it is possible to find that perfect balance, and you are going to transcend that. By transcend, it is meant that you are going to beyond those concepts of balance. It appears that you are going to find that there is something more beyond the balance. It's something which is called, it appears it's called non-balance, and it's different than unbalance. Unbalance means that you don't have a balance. Balance means that you have balance, but non-balance, it appears that it means that it is something that you understand that the biggest balance you can find is to understand that everything is already in balance as it is. Something of that similar nature. And eventually, this life is about spiritual transformation, spiritual discovery, and spiritual transformation. And after that, it appears that your, let's call it like your higher self, is waiting for you in the Sirius, and you are going to move after this life to Sirius, and in there you are going to begin to study in advanced spiritual schools, and it appears that you have a lot to learn. It's going to take at least a couple of thousand years for you to learn all that, but eventually you will learn everything what you need, and apparently you're going to become a teacher, which is going to teach other souls about a soul evolution, and become similar like a soul guide, apparently like a soul guide who is going to, you are going to guide other souls through their journeys of life. It appears that it's the most obvious energies we were able to identify. Is there any questions or something you would like to ask or inquire? Well, if the story makes sense, then we are ready to move forward. So maybe you would like to take a look at the pictures then. So in the first picture we have a lady. And what is your relationship with this lady? Yes, right now. Oh, your former wife. It appears that with this entity there have been a contract, a soul contract. This entity also have been from, it appears that this entity have been one of those rebels in the Orion constellation with whom you were traveling, and you have met for a few lifetimes, and you mostly have been, maybe not mostly, sometimes you have been like man friends, and sometimes like a woman and a man, but mostly friends. It does not appear that you have been married before, and it appears that in this life you have misinterpreted the energies. You have been known with this entity before, you have been friends, and in this lifetime you met together and you felt that there is something, some mysterious energy, some mysterious attraction between you, and you decided that maybe it's some kind of fate or something and you have to be together. But it appears that this energy was misinterpreted. It was more like you just had to be friends, but not couple like a husband and wife. So therefore probably the relationship might have parted ways. So in the next picture they have a small girl. And what is your relationship? Not a biological, but daughter. So this entity, it appears that this entity, you have a soul contract together. This entity is coming from Cygnus constellation, and it has been seen that the transition is not going to be, what is the appropriate term for that? Well, it's not going to be completely smooth. There's going to be complications within the incarnation. But that entity, that soul, needed to be here in this planet. And basically, it was the only way that entity could come here, even if it meant that there's going to be some kind of complications within the incarnation. But there comes your soul, because you have written the contract together that you are going to take care of this entity. And therefore, that soul knew what it can come, because you are going to take care of it. So, however things are, that was the only way for the soul could come, even with complications. Yet, the soul is happy that you are here, you can take care of that soul, and everything is according to plan, despite any kind of circumstances which are. And the entity is expressing a lot of unconditional love towards you, especially because she's very grateful for you taking care of her, even though, basically you don't have to biologically, as you say, but it was your decision based on the soul contract. So therefore, it is like that. And the soul has certain missions which it is planning to accomplish. It appears that in the future there's going to be technologies which is going to help for the soul to integrate into the body more appropriately, and therefore certain misalignments will be aligned. So everything is gonna be alright, actually. And actually you're going to be very good friends in the future. Well, regarding your former wife, the thing is, because your contract have been misinterpreted in the first place, you didn't had actually any kind of contract. It was like a misunderstanding, your relationship. So there was no contract to begin with. Well, the situation is a bit complicated now, because you had to be friends. Now there was this like a marital relationship, and it complexed things. Well, the energies now are a bit unclear, and they need time to settle down. So there is no contract to fulfill, but there are, as they say, some waters what needs to go under the bridge. The statement meaning that the energies need to settle down. There is some flooding energies now. They need to settle down, calm down a little bit, and so much of that. There is not much to do with that relationship after that. In the third picture, there is a man on the beach. What is your relationship? Can we get a little bit clarification? Do you mean that entity have departed from your life? Or because it would be strange if your relationship could change, because the way it looks like is that you could consider yourself from the soulmates or soul family. This is a friend who was your friend for many lifetimes, and it was a dear friend for sure. And you have been friends for quite a few lifetimes on this planet, and as doesn't exactly see clearly the lives beyond this planet. Despite that, your relationships became very strong in this planet. So you have been friends for many lifetimes, and your relationship should go strong even further. It's just that you haven't met before, was just some kind of complicated circumstances. It wasn't just possible to meet earlier, so you met as early as you could. It was just some kind of circumstances. In the next picture, we have an elderly, maybe not elderly, but grown-up man in the nature. And what is your relationship? So basically, this man was, you had a previous life relationship, and he was your older brother, and yeah, literally a brother, and well, he was something like your teacher, or at least you felt like this brother of yours have been your teacher, and in this life there was, well, something similar, or at least you have seen it like that. And the energies which you are going through now are based on something that it appears it is based on former life, because in former life you had a conflict. The conflict was based on that, but he was your older brother and you were the younger one, and he decided that he's going to join the army, and you didn't like it a lot, that idea. You thought it was an inappropriate idea, and you had a very heated discussion about that, and he decided that it's going to be easier for him to leave you as the brother if you are going to go into complete conflict, and this way he's not going to regret by leaving you, because he's going to leave you because of the conflict. It was his decision. He thought that it's going to be for your own good, because you're not going to also regret that he left you or whatever, and this way he thought that it's a good idea. And these energies came back in this life, and therefore there are, because not exactly sure about the ages doesn't seem to match. It appears in a former life you have been more like in the age of teenager, and he was something like approximately 10 years older than you. So they just do not match, but despite that, the energy appears coming from that. So if you want to resolve the energy disbalance, you need to sit and you need to talk. And by talking, you need to talk about that past life, and that in past life he left you, and you have to say to him that you forgive him. You have to say, I understand what you did was from the love to me, because this way you were expressing your love to me, and therefore I forgive you, even though you hurt me. And it appears that it's going to be like an opening line by which you are going to begin to resolve that energy. Despite that, you might not apparently be able to remember maybe that past life together. Despite that, it's still going to do the effect. But if you will be able together to remember, that's just gonna be better then. In the next picture, we have a man, but in the black and white picture. So what is your relationship? Yes, this entity, you also had a past life together, and you also have been a good friends. Actually, you have become, it appears that you have been friends for one life, or at least we are able to identify at least one life, and in that life you have been traveling together. There was something like a very long journey, which, took many years to accomplish. It was some kind of long journey traveling from one country to another by foot. So there have been a lot of different people who were traveling, and well, during that journey, naturally you become acquainted to the people, and the relationship just begins to grow. And well, that same goal to reach the promised land or whatever you were going together, that same goal have been uniting you, and it appears that you are repeating that energy in this life. It's just that maybe the journey is not physical anymore. It's more like a spiritual journey, like a symbolic journey. Yet that same goal and same destiny, you might even call it, is uniting you. And it appears that you are going to go for quite some years together more. So, any more questions or maybe some comments? Well, regarding the wireless devices, we can definitely make a statement from our experience that because of this channel's high sensitivity for electromagnetic fields, we definitely do not recommend using these kind of devices because the energy field is distorted a lot, and where in the places where those devices are placed, we are not able to protect ourselves, because then when we meet the like an outside electromagnetic influence, like from the Wi-Fi router or something like that, then it's not so harmful because it is harming our electromagnetic field, but we are able to push it back if we are strong enough psychically. But when we put something inside on our body or inside of our body, like in our ears, and it's emitting those frequencies, then it's kind of complicated because we are not able to push back those fields because they are already inside of us. So, well, basically that's just point what we are making, because we are unable to use it, so we are not able to recommend for anybody else to use it. Do you have some kind of digestion imbalances? Regarding the enzymes, well, usually the enzymes are recommended to people who have digestion, some kind of difficulties, because if you are unable to digest something, then you need the enzymes to digest. Usually our stomach is making the enzymes to digest food by itself, but if we have problems to digest, then we need to buy the enzymes, because something is wrong with our body that it is unable to digest. So in those cases, well, for example, why not go for natural enzymes and eat? We have two types of main enzymes, and one enzyme is to digest meat, and another enzyme to digest everything else basically. And those two are found for the meat is plenty in ananas and pineapple in English, sorry. And in the other one is in for the rest is in papaya. So I would recommend to try and eat those fruits instead of pills. And what I would recommend even more is to put more attention on something which is called probiotics, which is even more important regarding our body functions than the enzymes, because if we are able to digest properly there is not much point in putting more enzymes to improve the digestion. What is more important is how much we are able to absorb from the food we digest with the enzymes. When it goes into our digestion tract, how much we are able to absorb from that food. Because if we are not able to absorb, then it goes into poop, everything, and it flushes down the toilet. It's a waste of food. But if we have enough probiotics, then it's a different story, because we absorb much more from the food. And I guess, I'm not exactly sure at this moment, but it's a guess that same as in Poland, same as in Lithuania, same in Latvia, you should have something like something that we are making those cabbage, which are like, what is the proper word in English? Fermented. I think it's fermented, it's called. Yeah, fermented cabbage, and mostly it's cabbage or cucumbers or something like that. So those are natural probiotics, which would be mostly recommended to make sure that you get the best from the food, everything that you can. And don't concern yourself too much with enzymes if you are able to digest properly. That would be the advice. Anything else? Actually, this idea of the conscious society, living the nature, all of those things is proper idea. And the idea is coming from two directions. First, energy is most likely that those entities with whom you are creating the society, they are most likely some entities you have been acquainted before, you have been friends in former lifetimes, and you were probably doing this before, and it's just natural karmic progression. Despite that, there is another energy which is coming. It is the impulse from the cosmic energies, and those energies are pushing us all towards those kind of societies. If you have been able to read in, in Latvian language, but in Russian, you would be able to definitely find a literature which is called Anastasia, and Singing Cedars. So this is basically that channeled energy is the energy which is pushing us towards those energies, towards living in the nature. And it is because we have to create, because when you look into the world as it is going now, you can clearly see that we are mostly going somewhere wrong. The world is going really, really wrong. So if people are going to passively go in that direction where the current leaders are leading us, we are going to get into trouble pretty soon. Therefore, there is this cosmic push for going to go to alternative energy. And this is the energy that your group is picking up, and this is something that mostly all of us are going to have to do, because if not, then we will gonna have to live within that what we are being pushed for. And for now, the energies are not completely solid. Therefore, there is a lot of doubt in that. But the pressure is going to get stronger, and the energies are going to go from two positions. First, the will for those kind of societies are going to become stronger and stronger, and the push from the current leaders for creating this kind of dystopian society is going to also increase, and therefore we are going to push us, the alternative thinking people, from the society, and the willpower for us to create those societies are also increased, and it's going to be like a natural progression. So basically we have no choice but to do that. Well, time in this case is something which is going to unfold by itself, because at first we might think that there is time, or maybe there is no time. Whatever we are going to think, it doesn't matter. What matters is that when the time is going to be right, we will know it, because we will see it reflecting in the society, that it's impossible to live in those kind of circumstances. Therefore we need to move on. So it's more like trust in the higher plan, and basically go with it. Don't resist it. Can you restate your question, because you were talking about the plans, but you haven't clarified the question regarding those plans. What is the question exactly? Yes, you are much clearer now. So the question is, or maybe, is your soul ready to accept the power plan inside of your soul to push it towards its evolutionary path? And the answer is yes. It's the appropriate time. You are ready for that. It is not something you should put too much you shouldn't exchange your natural spiritual growth for the plans. But the idea is that those so-called power plans are just like an elevator, by which when you ingest it, it elevates your consciousness into the new levels, and then in that new level you are able to see yourself in your future self as you would be in your full consciousness, even though it's not exactly that, but it's a rudimentary metaphor. And later on, after the session is over, you return to your body, and then it's your job to go that distance yourself. So it should be, actually your soul is craving for that, and you should probably try it. You seem to be ready for that. Questions or something you would like to state? Well, we are glad if we were able as this channel to serve you properly. That is our hope. And if it was so, then we would like to remind that you are able to express your gratitude, and the ways to express that gratitude is in our website below the terms on the lower side of the page. So, we wanted to thank you for this conversation, and for this time, wish you all the best.